These incidents happened during real school lockdowns, moments where students thought they might not make it out alive. What you're about to hear is disturbing, tense, and impossible to forget.
It was a completely ordinary, painfully boring day in calculus class, the kind of class where time seems to crawl slower than usual. But there was one thing keeping everyone going. It was Friday, 7th period, the last stretch before the weekend, and spring break was about to begin. Students were restless, shifting in their chairs, whispering, glancing constantly at the clock. Unlike many other classes, we didn't have an exam that day. Our teacher was known for being extremely easygoing, so instead of teaching, he decided to kill time by playing online quiz games with us. We were laughing, shouting answers, competing over brand logos. I remember the exact moment everything changed. Right after my friend correctly guessed a logo. Suddenly, the dean's voice blasted through the intercom. He sounded nothing like his normal calm self. His voice was frantic, tense, almost panicked. "Attention staff, this is not a drill. Initiate lockdown immediately." A wave of cold fear ran through me. My arms broke out in goosebumps. Even our laid-back teacher looked genuinely scared as he rushed to switch off the lights and motioned for us to move quickly to the back corner of the room. We huddled together in silence. After about 2 minutes, the low electrical humming that normally came from a panel in the back of the classroom suddenly stopped. The power had been cut. That's when we realized how serious this really was. A few minutes later, we heard screaming. A man's voice shouting at full volume somewhere in the hallway. 2 girls in the class immediately began crying, which made everyone else even more terrified. The screams grew louder, closer. Then came violent banging sounds as the man slammed into lockers. Bang, bang, bang. He was shouting threats, completely out of control. At that moment, I genuinely thought I might die. Our teacher whispered for us to stay quiet as we stared at each other in panic. Suddenly, the banging shifted from the lockers to our classroom door. One of the crying girls screamed. The pounding intensified as the man shouted for someone to open the door. Now, several students were sobbing openly. Time felt completely distorted. It could have been minutes or hours. Eventually, the noise moved away down the corridor, his screaming fading into the distance. Roughly 10 minutes later, though it felt much longer, the dean spoke over the intercom again. He explained that an unstable individual had entered the building and attacked the receptionist before she managed to escape outside. Staff didn't know whether the man had a weapon. This was before schools had strong security systems or cameras everywhere, so it was possible for someone to walk in unnoticed. Teachers were instructed to continue classes but keep doors locked and not allow any students into the hallways. The most disturbing part came later. That night, a janitor reportedly found the man asleep inside a storage closet near the back of the school. Rumors spread that a large handgun was visible in his pocket, but somehow he woke up and disappeared before police arrived. As far as anyone knows, he was never caught.
My school had 2 separate lunch periods. Younger students ate first, followed by the older grades. The lockdown happened in early October on a gloomy, overcast day. During the first lunch period, 4 extremely loud booms suddenly echoed from outside. At first, I assumed it was thunder, but the entire cafeteria erupted into chaos. Students started screaming and running away from the windows. Security staff rushed in, shouting for everyone to move immediately into the multi-purpose hall. Kids were forced to abandon their food and hurry inside with hundreds of others. The hall was massive, with one wall made almost entirely of glass. Staff quickly pulled heavy curtains across the windows, while adults blocked every doorway. Nobody knew what was happening. My friend asked one of the staff members for information. When he returned, he looked shaken. He told us a man living in one of the houses directly across from the school had barricaded himself inside and was threatening violence. Police had surrounded the property. Apparently, he had been seen acting strangely around the neighborhood for some time. We were trapped in that room for over an hour, sitting on the floor in tense silence. Later, students were escorted back to class one group at a time. I eventually learned the man lived next door to one of my classmates. She said she had seen him behaving disturbingly months earlier, but assumed it was nothing serious. After that day, nobody felt comfortable walking past that house again.
At 22 years old, fresh out of college, I landed a job as a computer assistant at my old high school. My workspace was in the basement, cluttered, messy, but surprisingly comfortable. There were desks, mini fridges, a mounted TV, air conditioning, and all the school's server equipment. One afternoon during my lunch break, I received a call from the front office. The school was entering lockdown due to a possible armed intruder. My office didn't even have a proper door, just an open entrance, so I turned off the lights and hid under my desk. For nearly 20 minutes, everything was eerily quiet. Then I heard the heavy basement door open. Footsteps descended the stairs. Someone entered the office, but didn't turn on the lights. I stayed frozen, barely breathing. Suddenly, my phone buzzed with a text message. A colleague upstairs warned that a gunman was inside the building. My fear was indescribable. Moments later, the person in the room started moving toward my desk. Panic took over. I ran. A gunshot exploded behind me, echoing through the basement. The bullet struck metal somewhere in the darkness, but missed me. I reached the upper floor where police were already evacuating people. The suspect was captured trying to escape through the basement exit. Even years later, the sound of that shot still haunts me.